Yeah, I think it's just a natural maturation of young players. Certainly, quarterbacks getting that feel for some of those looks that you're seeing for the first time, and you try to replicate those looks in practice and make it as full speed and realistic as you can be. And then sometimes you get to the game and it's just that game speed. So I think he's doing a nice job.
Oh, so you guys are playing at one speed in practice, but when you get to the game, it seems too fast for him. It's your job as a head coach to get the young quarterback ready to play in the game. It's your job as a head coach and Tommy Rees as an offensive coordinator to have a opening script of plays that he likes, not just plays that you like. It's your job to put him in position to succeed. These things are kind of your job.
The Cleveland Browns management just did something that could be the worst thing that has happened to Shedeur Sanders' already rocky rookie season, and the football world is going crazy with anger. This week, Kevin Stefanski stood up at that podium and said things that have Browns fans, NFL analysts, and Shedeur supporters wondering if this team is really trying to help their rookie quarterback grow, or if they are just trying to ruin his chances before he even gets a real chance to show what he can do. What Stefanski said wasn't just worrying. It wasn't just a letdown. It was a public execution that looked like a player evaluation, and the coach used passive-aggressive language that made you wonder what was really going on behind closed doors at that Cleveland facility. The head coach of the Browns basically told everyone in the NFL that Shedeur Sanders can't keep up with the speed of the game, and the effects of that statement are truly horrible. This isn't just another rough patch in the life of a new quarterback. This shows how disorganized an organization can be. A coaching staff that seems more interested in hiding their own mistakes than finding top talent, and a franchise that has become a graveyard for quarterbacks' careers. The question on everyone's mind is simple but very important. Is Kevin Stefanski trying to coach Shedeur Sanders, or is he just making excuses for why his failure isn't the coaching staff's fault? Let's go over what really happened. Find out the truth behind Stefanski's carefully chosen words and explain why this situation has become so bad that many people think the only way to fix it is to fire all the coaches before another talented quarterback's career is ruined in Cleveland. Kevin Stefanski walked into his weekly press conference with the weight of a bad season on his shoulders. The Browns are having a hard time. The offense has been weak, and for weeks, every media session has been full of questions about the quarterback position. Stefanski, on the other hand, didn't take responsibility or explain how he plans to make the most of Shedeur Sanders' obvious talent. Instead, he gave what can only be called a masterclass in deflection and blame shifting. The press conference got off to a normal start. Stefanski talked about how the team was getting ready for their next game, how focused the players were during the week, and how happy he was for Grant Delpit for winning the Cleveland Browns Walter Payton Man of the Year award. That thank you was real and appropriate. Delpit is a real bright spot on this team. He's a hard-hitting safety who plays tough on the field and gives back to the community off of it. No one can disagree with that praise. But then the questions turned to Shedeur Sanders, and that's when Stefanski's carefully built facade began to fall apart. A reporter asked about Shedeur's performance on Wednesday. They said that the rookie quarterback seemed to see what he needed to see on the field, but he didn't seem to want to throw the ball, especially downfield. It was a fair question that needed a simple answer. Instead, they got a statement that will stick with Stefanski for the rest of his time in Cleveland. Stefanski said that it was normal for young players, especially quarterbacks who are seeing their first real NFL defenses, to go through this. He talked about trying to make practice as realistic and fast as possible by copying what they see. Then he hit the knockout punch that has everyone doubting his abilities and motives. Stefanski said in a casual way that you sometimes get to the game and it's just that game speed. He didn't realize he had just thrown his quarterback under the bus in front of the whole football world. Let's stop right there and talk about what just happened. Kevin Stefanski, the Cleveland Browns head coach and offensive play caller, just said in public that his rookie quarterback has trouble with the speed of the game. He basically told everyone who was watching that Shedeur Sanders can't process information quickly enough to do his job well when the bullets start flying on Sunday, no matter how hard they try in practice. That's not helping your quarterback. That doesn't explain why rookies are having trouble. That sets up a story that the problem is the player not being able to adapt, not the coaches not getting him ready. People who were paying attention to this situation, and Browns fans, knew right away that it was organizational sabotage disguised as honest evaluation. Fans and analysts were instantly and completely right to be angry. This is the main problem with everything Stefanski just said. Whose job is it to help Shedeur Sanders if he really is having trouble with the speed of the game? Who is in charge of making practice schedules that are as close to real games as possible? Who is in charge of calling plays that help a rookie quarterback get used to the game instead of making it harder for him? Who is in charge of making an offensive game plan that makes the most of a young player's strengths and hides his weaknesses? Kevin Stefanski is the answer to all of those questions. This is what he is supposed to do. Stefanski is the head coach of an NFL team and the main person who calls offensive plays. His main job is to make sure that the players on his team are in the best position to succeed. If his rookie quarterback isn't ready for game speed after weeks of practice and preparation, that's not a failure on the part of the player. That's a huge failure on the part of the coach. But when you know everything that's been going on in Cleveland, it gets a lot worse. Several reliable sources have said that Shedeur Sanders was not getting first-team practice reps before his first start. Take a moment to think about how crazy that is. The Browns were going to start Shedeur Sanders in a real NFL game, but they weren't giving him enough time to practice with the players he would be playing with on Sunday. Jack Conklin, the starting right tackle, wasn't even hurt for real. Several people close to the team say that Conklin was benched after he spoke out about this very issue and was honest about how Shedeur wasn't getting enough practice with the starting offense. The team punished a veteran player for telling the truth about how they were making things harder for their rookie quarterback. So, let's put these pieces together. You have a new quarterback who isn't getting any first-team practice time. He's not getting to know the receivers he'll be throwing to on Sunday or how to time his throws. He isn't getting used to how the offensive line protects him because he doesn't work with them much during the week. Then, when he gets to the game and has trouble getting in sync with teammates he barely practiced with, his head coach goes to the podium and questions whether he can handle the speed of the NFL. That's not coaching. That isn't a fair assessment. That's planned sabotage, and it's happening in broad daylight while Stefanski acts like he supports his quarterback by saying things like, "I have no concerns about him letting it rip," which is not true. Stefanski's comments are full of hypocrisy and double talk. He says he isn't worried about Shedeur being aggressive, but he just spent the last minute talking about how the rookie can't handle the speed of the game. He says they're trying to make practice as close to real games as possible, but several reports say that Shedeur wasn't even getting enough reps with the starting offense. He talks about how young quarterbacks naturally grow up, but he's not giving this young quarterback the tools and time to actually grow up and get better. The contradiction shows what's really going on here. Kevin Stefanski is putting together a story. He's coming up with reasons to move on from Shedeur Sanders when the time is right. He's making excuses that shift the blame away from the coaching staff's failure to develop him properly and on to the quarterback's inability to adapt. Stefanski has been in charge of quarterback development failures before. Let's look back at his time as head coach of the Cleveland Browns and see how he did with quarterbacks. Baker Mayfield went from being the Rookie of the Year and winning the playoffs to being kicked out of town. Mayfield's relationship got so bad that he asked to be traded and did well in Tampa Bay. This makes people wonder if Cleveland was the problem all along. Deshaun Watson came to Cleveland as one of the most exciting quarterbacks in the NFL, a player in Houston who was putting up MVP-level numbers even though the team was having problems. Watson has played like a whole different player in Stefanski's offense. Unsure, wrong, and completely lost. The man who used to throw for more than 4,000 yards and 30 touchdowns in a season now has trouble making basic throws and reading simple defenses. Joe Flacco had short bursts of competence in Cleveland, showing off his Super Bowl pedigree and veteran savvy. But even Flacco, who had played well in Stefanski's system before, couldn't keep it up this season. He looked tired, slow, and unable to run the offense consistently. Kevin Stefanski personally pushed for Dillon Gabriel to be the quarterback in the draft. Stefanski chose Gabriel to be his quarterback and supposedly made plays for him. He thought Gabriel could run his offense. Gabriel started one game and lost 5, and he looked horrible doing it. He didn't show the same skill he did at Oregon, where he played with less talented players but was able to run that offense. Do you see how it works? Every quarterback who plays in Kevin Stefanski's offense looks worse than they did in any other offense. Every last one of them. At some point, the common denominator is too big to ignore, and that common denominator is the person at the podium making excuses for how fast the game is going. When you think about what Shedeur Sanders said earlier this week, the situation gets even more annoying. Shedeur showed a lot of maturity and self-awareness when he talked to the media. He took full responsibility for how he did. He didn't want to make excuses for being a rookie. He said he was determined to get better quickly and get the results his team needs. He had the right attitude and leadership skills that you want in a franchise quarterback. Then his head coach makes all of that worse by publicly doubting whether he can handle NFL speed. It goes against everything Shedeur was trying to show about being confident and professional. Stefanski chose to voice his doubts in front of cameras and microphones instead of supporting his quarterback in public and dealing with any developmental issues privately. This will leave Shedeur with doubts that will follow him no matter how well he does in the future. This makes it hard to believe that Stefanski has good intentions or is capable of doing his job. Is he really trying to turn Shedeur Sanders into a franchise quarterback? Or is he protecting himself by making up a story that the player's fault is the failure, not the system's? Is he really going to do everything he can to help this young man reach his full potential? Or is he just going through the motions and hoping for a reason to move on to the next option? Cleveland's financial situation makes everything even more difficult. Deshaun Watson's contract makes it impossible for the Browns to do anything. They would have to pay $80 million in dead cap space if they let Watson go. If they keep him on the roster, he will cost them $40 million against the cap and could cost them another $40 million in future years. This is one of the worst deals in NFL history, a financial burden that makes it very hard for the team to be flexible in other areas. For Shedeur Sanders, this makes things impossible. He isn't just up against Dillon Gabriel for the starting job. He is up against a $80 million investment that the company is desperate to find a way to justify. The Browns know that Watson has been awful. Everyone knows this. But when you pay someone that much money, you almost have to keep trying, even if you know it's a lost cause. Shedeur is up against a lot of problems on many fronts. His head coach openly doubts his ability. He's playing in an offensive system that has made every quarterback look bad. He's up against money problems that have nothing to do with how well he's doing. And he's trying to do all of this while also learning how to play the hardest position in professional sports as a rookie. A more in-depth look at Cleveland's organizational problems shows how bad they really are. A recent talk among Browns analysts made it clear how bad the franchise's financial situation is. Because Watson's contract is in place and there are a lot of old veterans making a lot of money with little room to move around in the salary cap, any new general manager who comes in would basically get a year off to tear down the roster before they could start rebuilding. According to the projection, 26 to 30 of the 53 roster spots will be filled by players who are in their first or second year by this time next year. That's basically a full teardown, which means the Browns will have to lose at least one more season before they can even think about competing for anything important. And all of this is based on the assumption that they will hire the right people to do the rebuilding, which is not a sure thing given owner Jimmy Haslam's history. Haslam is the elephant in the room that no one wants to talk about, but everyone knows it's there. He's owned the Browns for more than 10 years and has been in charge during one of the most dysfunctional times in NFL history, for a team that was already pretty dysfunctional when he got there. He has hired and fired many coaches and general managers. He has made controversial choices about who to hire and fire. He promised stability, but when things don't work right away, he pulls the plug. At some point, the most important question is whether Jimmy Haslam is the problem. Is his hands-on approach and involvement in football operations keeping the Browns from ever being stable? Even if they fire Kevin Stefanski and hire a new coach, or even if they get a new general manager, who is making those hiring choices? The same owner who has made bad decisions over and over again in the last 10 years. That's the sad truth for Browns fans. It's not just about one player or coach like Kevin Stefanski or Shedeur Sanders. It's about problems with the way the whole organization works, starting at the top and spreading down to every level of the operation. The Browns will keep being where talented players and coaches go to see their careers go off the rails until that basic problem is fixed, or Haslam gets out of the way, or changes his approach completely. But what happens next with Shedeur Sanders? The rookie has about 4 games left to show that he has enough potential to be the team's quarterback in the future. But how can he do that when his own head coach is publicly doubting whether he can play at game speed? How can he gain confidence if he doesn't have enough time to practice with the starting offense? How is he supposed to build chemistry with receivers when the way they practice doesn't put a lot of emphasis on that? The answer is that Shedeur Sanders must be completely undeniable. He has to play so well that even Stefanski's doubts and the problems in the organization can't make his talent less impressive. He needs to score a lot of touchdowns and not throw any interceptions. He needs to be able to stand tall in the pocket under pressure and throw strikes downfield. He needs to show the accuracy, good judgment, and calmness that made him a top draft pick as a quarterback in the first place. Putting this on a rookie quarterback is a huge and fundamentally unfair burden. Most young players get help from their teams, coaches who believe in them, and systems that help them use their strengths while hiding their weaknesses. Shedeur isn't getting any of that. He's getting the opposite. His coach doesn't believe in him, he wasn't ready, and the system has shown that it makes quarterbacks look worse. Shedeur Sanders might be the only person who can get through these problems. People have doubted and criticized him throughout his football career. People have told him over and over that he only gets chances because of his famous last name. People have doubted him at every level, but he has always come through on the field. Deion Sanders, one of the best players in NFL history, is his father. He can give him advice and a point of view that most rookies don't have. But having a strong mind and coming from a good family can only get you so far if the company isn't backing you up properly. To get the most out of talent, it needs to be developed, nurtured, and maximized through smart coaching and the right systems. Even the best players can have trouble reaching their full potential when those things aren't in place. The sad thing about what's going on in Cleveland is that we might never know what Shedeur Sanders could really become if the Browns give up on him after a few starts without the right support. If Stefanski's story wins out and Shedeur becomes another victim of Cleveland's quarterback graveyard, we'll always wonder what could have happened if a good team had drafted him and a coaching staff had been dedicated to his growth. This is not good enough for Browns fans. They've had decades of bad quarterbacks, coaches who come and go, and problems with the organization. They've seen other teams find their guy and build long-term success, but Cleveland keeps making the same mistakes over and over again. They have stayed loyal through it all, coming every Sunday even though they know they will probably be disappointed. This isn't good enough for Shedeur Sanders. He is a talented young quarterback with real NFL tools, a good character, and the right mindset to do well at the highest level. He should be in a situation where the coaches believe in him, where the way practices are set up helps him grow, and where he has a real chance to show what he can do without being made fun of in public. The NFL should get to see what Shedeur Sanders can really do. When talented players are given real chances to do well, football is better. The league is better off when young quarterbacks are trained well and given chances to reach their full potential. It's not just bad for the Browns or Shedeur what's going on in Cleveland. It's not good for the game. Kevin Stefanski's comments about how fast the game is are more than just worrisome or disappointing. They show things. They show a coach who either can't or won't take responsibility for training his quarterback. They show that the organization is still fundamentally broken, even though there have been several changes in leadership and promises of stability. They show that the Cleveland Browns quarterback carousel won't stop until big changes are made. First, they need to fire a head coach who has shown he can't develop talent at the most important position in sports. We will know everything we need to know after the next 4 games. Will Shedeur Sanders be able to get past the problems that are in his way and make the Browns sign him? Will Kevin Stefanski really give him a real chance, or will he keep setting him up to fail while making up excuses? Will the Browns finally learn from all the bad things that have happened with their quarterbacks over the years? or will they just make the same mistakes with another young player who is good? This is what we already know. Shedeur Sanders is up against more than just defenses that are against him. He has to deal with his own coaching staff, the problems with the organization, the lack of money that makes it hard to make decisions, and a story that has already been told.